It's fall of 2012. I'm in my kitchen. I look up the ironing board that folds out of the wall. This was always one of my favorite parts of our second-story Berkeley apartment. The ironing board that magically came out of nowhere. Of course, knowing my tidiness habits, oftentimes it would magically come out of nowhere and just stay there for weeks on end until it got folded back up. But, yes, my eyes would continue until they were looking out of the slightly open window. And I saw my new friend, the gnarled, leafy tree, dancing slightly in the breeze. The sun is bright, giving the world a glittery sheen. And friend that gnarly tree is, they're keeping the sun out of my eyes. On different days, the scene would be different, of course. A bird, mostly gray, patiently lounging on a branch, contemplating whatever it is that birds contemplate. Worms? Birdseed? Single-payer health care? I'll never know. But there the bird was, and I would study the small flecks of color amidst its gray feathers. One day it was raining, the wind blowing more vigorously, and my friend gnarly tree would be dancing, rain slapping the window near my face. The sounds of nature's activity audible just beyond the panes of glass. Each of these moments was quite brief, maybe 2 minutes long, maybe 5. Short moments marveling at the wonders of the world, how the elements of nature interact, how the weather has such a marvelous effect on this tree, on the world. I found myself in these tiny moments of joy, witnessing how everything in the world can come together. These moments of joy were often holding me together. Seminary was tough that semester. We were living in a more expensive place, and I had just hit the bottom of my savings, so I'd taken on 3 jobs. I was taking more intensive courses on top of that, and I rarely saw my partner unless I was doing work or eating a quick meal between responsibilities. My heart at that time was often heavy. But these tiny moments of joy, these moments I just stumbled into, I savored them for as long as possible. These moments kept me going. They reminded me of beauty, of possibility. I found that lately our country is feeling like it's in a difficult spot. Perhaps you've felt that too? Just checking. In general, we as Unitarian Universalists see lifting up the worth and dignity of all people as an important part of our spirituality. We have already been used to pushing against systems of inequality, working toward a world that makes possibilities for every person more real. But lately, those who subtly and sometimes explicitly deny the worth and dignity of our neighbors have been gaining more and more systemic power. This can be, and often is, a frightening turn. Even more frightening for those who are the direct targets of these shifts in policy. If you are from one of 7 countries that the administration is planning to again ban from traveling to this country, or if you have friends or family who are in or from one of those countries. If you have school-age children who are transgender or gender nonconforming, they may be fearful that they will experience more bullying or threatening behavior from classmates because they are not allowed to use the bathroom that fits their gender because of Title IX protections changing. Or if you are an adult who is transgender or gender nonconforming, you may worry about the impact of those rollbacks on how people will treat you. If you love someone or are a person who doesn't have certain papers that make you more welcome in this country for reasons that seem kind of silly. Recent raids by ICE can make your life terrifying. If you truly value clean water and have been protesting a pipeline, and our government feels like, want to get onto that territory in unsafe ways. Rejections, unemployment, worrying about not being able to pay the rent. So the name of the sermon this morning, how can I be so bold to say something about joy this morning in the midst of so much difficulty and struggle and pain? It's because I truly believe that joy is necessary to our survival. Joy is necessary to our survival. We must have moments of satisfaction, of pleasure, of relief, if we are to be able to live a full human experience. Joy is part of a balanced human experience. This is not to say that joy is always easy to find, or that happiness is something we should personify at all times. No, life is legitimately difficult sometimes. It doesn't do us much good to reject sorrow or fear. They may just get pent up inside of us, something we're trying to reject if we just put on a happy face. But how do we find that joy in the places that we struggle? How do we find hope in the midst of challenge? UU and Methodist minister and theologian Rebecca Parker suggests that possibility is all around us already. In her discussion of paradise, a concept that is often thought of as having eternal joy and harmony, she has said that many people, including many UUs, tend to place an idea of paradise somewhere in the future. The idea that we will continue striving for goodness, making change in the world, and eventually we will arrive at a world that is perfect and joyful. This is not a bad belief by any means. It encourages love for our neighbors, justice, equality. But she encourages us to go one step further and see ourselves as already on holy ground. We are already in paradise in this moment as we move through our lives. Now, the first time I heard Rebecca talk about this world now as paradise, I'm sure the look on my face was something like, I mean, there's still a lot of struggle, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. But what Rebecca saw is that this is the only world we have. There's no better world in the future. There is this world. And if this is the one world we have, our hope shifts from an idea of a better world to a hopefulness, an imperative that we will treat what is here now, who is here now, with more love and compassion. With respect and care, she calls this a responsive hope, grounded in the now. She also says, I'm quoting, "To say paradise is accessible here and now is not to say the world is perfect, or that we should focus on the good and deny the evil and pain around and within us. Paradise is a place of struggle, a place where suffering happens and where destructive systems that harm life have to be resisted." She makes an allusion to the serpent in the traditional Christian story of paradise, the serpent that was aiming to cause harm or destruction. And she asked that we dismantle this traditional idea of paradise as a place of perfection. Instead, it is a place here and now where we can extend a hand of love and learn to come into good relationship with one another. And truly, I see this all around me. I will say on a personal note, it is in the baby burbles, which I absolutely adore. I keep hearing baby burbles and I love it. It's one of my favorite things. But I digress. Because it's also in the Women's March that Sally mentioned earlier, which was attended by how many people? So many. I mean, it was thousands in Walnut Creek alone. And these are people dedicated to pushing forward with resistance, dedicated to the idea that all people are worthy. It's that massive crowd filling up the parking lot of the Muslim Community Center in Walnut Creek for the Ring of Solidarity. It's people at protests giving encouragement to those who don't have documentation, supporting them, listening, learning more. It's people in airports demanding that travel bans not exist. It's these radical acts of resistance to show love to one another. These acts have lifted my heart in the recent months, as I'm sure they have some of yours. These moments have brought me great joy. But it's not only in these big radical acts. It's also in the small I love yous, murmured from parent to child, and the baby's murmuring back. It's the affection found in new and old relationships. It's in empowerment. That empowerment felt when you make a move that you know is taking care of yourself. It's that empowerment that I saw seeing a young black man driving by with a Black Lives Matter sticker on the back bumper of his car, realizing that the founders of that movement created language of empowerment for him and so many others. It's taking a hike through nature. Might even be looking at cute videos of dogs and cats on Facebook. Even the small, short, contemplative moment of looking at a tree and realizing it's connected to everything in the world. We must hold these moments. We must savor them. These are the ways in which we uncloud the beauty that exists all around us. Make it more active and present so that we may experience that joy. And there's something else that Rebecca Parker says about paradise that I love. It's about the role of the church in the world. She mentions the writings of Irenaeus, a 2nd century Christian, who says that the church is a paradise planted in this world. The church's role in that time, structures that encourage us to treat some people as lesser. While Irenaeus' ideas are focused on the early Christian church, they seem very applicable to the current day Unitarian Universalists. Our uncovering of joy isn't just an individual act, it's communal. We can see it here in our work both within these walls and outside of them, showing up by the BART station for our witness this Friday afternoon to affirm someone's humanity, yes, but also actively feeding people at winter nights, even the love and encouragement and sometimes challenge to do better that we give each other after worship, at Vespers, at community dinners. These are the joys that I have felt this year in this community and the joys that are yet to come. This is our work both as individuals and as a community to make this world, this holy ground, as vibrant and beautiful as possible. So I ask of you something this week, especially if you've been missing out on joyful moments lately. I will not ask you to create joyful moments, and certainly if you are experiencing sorrow or tragedy or fear, I will not ask you to put that aside, because that may be very real for you. But I will sit in that moment for a while. Be in that moment and joy that surround us. Give yourself that gift. Because while times may be trying, we deserve every moment of joy that comes to us. Blessed be.